While recovering from a broken leg I suffered while defending our home from burglars, I heard my wife in the next room saying to her friends he couldn't protect us properly. Now I'm trapped, forced to care for a crippled man. This marriage is a terrible mistake. All her friends supported her. I continued to heal as if nothing had happened. 3 days later, she called me nonstop, begging me to change my decision. My name's Ethan. I'm 35 now, and up until a few months ago, I thought I had a solid life. I had a decent career, a modest but cozy home in the suburbs, and a wife, Sophie, who I honestly believed was my person. We'd been married for 6 years. We met the old-fashioned way, through mutual friends at a casual happy hour back before the pandemic turned the world upside down. I still remember how Sophie stood out that night, confident, quick-witted, flashing a smile that could knock the air right out of your lungs. Honestly, I thought she was out of my league. She was the kind of woman who lit up a room without even trying. But somehow she picked me. Or at least, it seemed like that back then. Fast forward 6 years and we were living a relatively quiet life. Our house was nothing fancy, a small 3-bedroom place that needed more work than we could afford all at once, but we were chipping away at it bit by bit. Sophie always compared it to her sister's immaculate magazine perfect home. She never said it outright, but I could feel the dissatisfaction sometimes, like a ghost lingering in the background. Still, I believed we were building something real. And then 3 weeks ago, everything cracked. It was a Thursday night. Sophie was out with her coworkers for one of their endless team bonding dinners. Those things always turned into a late-night rosefest judging by her blurry Instagram stories. I stayed home like usual. Ordered some takeout, fired up my PlayStation, and lost myself in Elden Ring for hours. Don't judge, it was my little escape. Sometime around 11:30 p.m., just as I was about to call it a night, I heard something strange near the back door. At first, I thought it was the neighbor's cat again, that little menace loved prowling around our yard. But then came a sharper sound. A crack. A jolt that immediately set off every primal alarm in my body. Someone was trying to force their way in. I'm not a big guy. I'm not some ex-Marine who thrives under pressure. But survival instinct kicked in fast. I grabbed the aluminum baseball bat I kept tucked between the nightstand and the bed. Sophie always teased me about being paranoid and made my way downstairs. What happened next still replays in my mind like a bad movie on a loop. There were 2 of them. One took off the second he saw me. The other, he hesitated. Maybe he thought he could take me. Maybe he was desperate. Either way, he lunged. We collided hard in the narrow hallway near the kitchen. I swung wildly, landing a solid hit on his shoulder. But in the scramble, I lost my footing, crashing backward down the last few steps of the stairs. The sound my leg made when it snapped still haunts me. The burglar bolted at the noise. Our Ring camera caught their getaway, 2 dark blurs melting into the night, but by the time neighbors peeked out and called the cops, they were long gone. Nothing was stolen. Except maybe the sense of safety I used to take for granted. And, of course, my mobility. The fracture was bad. Compound. Messy. I needed 2 surgeries and a titanium rod to hold my right leg together. The doctors said I'd be off my feet for 8 to 12 weeks minimum. Best case scenario. When Sophie rushed into the hospital, she looked genuinely distraught. She asked 1,000 questions. Hovered near my bed, holding my hand. It made me stupidly grateful. It made me think this is what marriage is about. Being there when it's ugly. For the first few days at home, she was amazing. She set up a little station for me on the couch with my meds, snacks, chargers. She helped me hobble to the bathroom. Helped me shower. Dealt with the truly disgusting business of changing my bandages. It's funny how vulnerability strips you down. How quickly you learn what, for better or worse, actually looks like. But by day 5, something shifted. At first, it was small. Long sighs when I asked for help. The quick, annoyed glances when I needed her to adjust my pillows. The way she'd hand me food without looking at me, already half absorbed in her phone. Nobody signs up to become a full-time nurse in their early 30s, I told myself. She's tired. She's stressed. It's just temporary. I kept making excuses. Until I couldn't. It happened about a week after the surgery. Sophie had invited her 3 best friends over, Madison, Kelsey, and Brooke. The holy trinity of brunches, bottomless mimosas, and relentless judgment. I never really clicked with them, but I figured whatever made Sophie happy. I was upstairs trying to find a position where my leg didn't feel like it was lit on fire. Netflix buzzing in the background. Meds making my head swim. I had to use the bathroom, no shock, given the amount of medication they had me on. So I grabbed my crutches and made my slow, careful way to the hallway. That's when I heard them. Our bedroom door was half open. Sound carried strangely through the house, a quirk of the way the vents were built. They were downstairs, wine-drunk, loud, laughing without restraint. I didn't mean to eavesdrop. I didn't even want to. But once I heard Sophie's voice, sharp and dripping with bitterness, I couldn't move. Can't even protect our damn house. One burglar and he ends up in a full body cast, she said, and her friends erupted in cackles. Another sip of wine. Now I'm stuck babysitting a useless cripple. Had to cancel my spa weekend to clean his gross bandages. Like, what the hell? Someone said something supportive, clinking glasses. Then came the part that splintered something deep inside me. Marrying him was the worst mistake I ever made, Sophie slurred. I thought I was getting a partner, not whatever this is. He's going to be dead weight for months. I should just leave him now and save myself the trouble. The words hit me harder than the stares ever did. Her friends didn't argue. They didn't say, hey, that's harsh, or give him a break. They laughed. They cheered her on. You deserve better, Kelsey chimed in. Seriously, just ghost him, Madison added, like we hadn't spent 6 years building a life together. I stood there, barely balanced on my crutches, feeling like the floor had disappeared from under me. My heart was hammering so hard I thought I'd faint. 6 years. 6 years of believing we were partners. 6 years of planning a future. 6 years of thinking love meant weathering the storms. And behind my back, this was how she really felt. The strangest part? I didn't storm downstairs. I didn't yell. I didn't break anything. I just quietly crutched my way to the bathroom. Did what I had to do. Then crawled back into bed, heart hammering in my ears, staring at the ceiling. Later, Sophie came to bed. She smelled like wine and expensive perfume and something else, something fake. She leaned over me with a syrupy voice and asked if I needed anything. I said no. Turned away. Pretended to be asleep. All while my mind raced at 1,000 miles an hour, trying to figure out what the hell had just happened to my life. In the days that followed, I watched her with new eyes. Every sigh. Every impatient glance. Every time she accidentally bumped my injured leg while making the bed. Every text she sent with a sly little smile before deleting it. Things I might have once brushed off now screamed at me. It wasn't just a bad day or a little frustration. It was contempt. It was resentment. It was the end, and I just hadn't seen it coming. After that night, something inside me went completely numb. I didn't confront Sophie. I didn't scream or cry or demand explanations. I just watched. Watched the woman I thought I knew reveal herself, little by little, with every impatient sigh. Every eye roll she didn't bother to hide anymore. It's amazing what you start noticing once your heart stops making excuses. At first, it was subtle. Sophie seemed glued to her phone more than usual, texting with the kind of guilty quickness you can only spot if you're looking for it. She laughed at things she never explained, then tilted the screen away if I shifted on the couch to get more comfortable. She started deleting her messages too, not even trying to archive them like she used to when clearing space. Flat out deleting, as if she needed to erase conversations in case someone stumbled across them. She wasn't trying to hide her irritation anymore either. If I asked for help getting to the bathroom, she'd heave this exaggerated sigh first, like I'd asked her to push a boulder uphill. When I needed help getting into the shower, she'd accidentally bump my bad leg against the wall. When she made the bed, she'd tug the covers so hard she'd jostle my injured foot, muttering, "Sorry," without even glancing at me. Little cruelties. Small, sharp cuts layered over the massive wound that was already bleeding out inside me. And the money. That's when I knew I couldn't keep pretending. One night, while Sophie was at one of her endless self-care nights with the girls, I dragged myself to her laptop. It was risky. Moving around hurt like hell. But the weight in my chest was heavier than the pain in my leg. She wasn't careful. Maybe she thought I was too broken, too weak to even suspect anything. But the thing about working in IT for a living is you get very good at recovering deleted files. It didn't take long to find them. The bank statements, the emails, the receipts she thought were erased forever. Turns out, Sophie had been slowly siphoning money out of our joint account into a secret savings account under her name. Nothing huge at first, $200 here, $300 there. Enough that I didn't notice over the course of a year. But it added up. Almost $4,000. For grand we were supposed to be saving for a new roof, or a vacation we always talked about but never took, or hell, just an emergency fund. And she'd been stashing it away, preparing for a life without me. Months before I got hurt, Months before I was anything more than an inconvenient obstacle. That wasn't all. Buried in her emails were conversations with a rental agent. Discussions about apartments, move-in dates, deposit amounts. The earliest message was from 3 months before my accident. Long before she had any burden to complain about. She'd been planning to leave me quietly, seamlessly, without the mess. Just slide out of my life like a snake shedding its skin. And if I hadn't been broken, if the universe hadn't quite literally knocked me off my feet, I probably would have been blindsided. Sitting there, breathing hard from the pain and from what I just discovered, I realized something that both terrified and fueled me. Sophie didn't love me. Not anymore. Maybe not ever the way I thought she did. She stayed because it was convenient, because the optics were good, because my paycheck kept her living a life she liked posting about. I wasn't a partner. I was a prop, a bank account with a beating heart. In the middle of that realization, rage threatened to take over. The impulse to confront her, to tear into her the second she walked through that door, was overwhelming. But then another part of me, the colder, smarter part, spoke up. If Sophie had been playing a long game, then maybe it was time I learned to play it too. Over the next week, I wore my best mask. Gratitude, helplessness, obliviousness. I thanked her for bringing me food. I apologized when I needed help standing. I pretended not to notice when she rolled her eyes after my pain meds kicked in and I nodded off mid-sentence. Meanwhile, I was working. While Sophie was at her essential spa appointments or work dinners, I was gathering documents, screenshots, bank records, every petty text she'd sent her friends trash-talking me, every financial transaction she tried to hide, the secret credit card opened in my name, with her as an authorized user, that I discovered thanks to some very pointed detective work. She wasn't just emotionally done with me. She was stealing from me. Slowly, systematically, I started shifting money into my own personal account, the one I'd kept dormant since before the marriage, just enough to stay under her radar. I called in favors from friends, real friends, not the ones who raised champagne glasses while plotting my downfall, and started laying the groundwork to disappear. I contacted a lawyer, Mr. Reynolds, recommended by a buddy who'd been through his own brutal divorce a year earlier. We spent hours on the phone, reviewing everything. He didn't sugarcoat it. You have her. Dead to rights. But we're not gonna play fair. We're gonna play smart. Mr. Reynolds helped me put together a plan so cold, so methodical, that part of me felt sick even considering it. But then I'd remember Sophie's voice laughing at how pathetic I was. Remember the secret bank account. Remember the texts to her friends about dumping the cripple. No. Sophie wasn't going to get to choose the terms of our ending. I would. The tipping point came one afternoon when Sophie left her laptop open while taking a shower. I know. Snooping isn't noble. But by that point, the war had already started. I was just trying to make sure I had the right ammunition. Buried in a hidden folder was a collection of photos. Sophie, and a man I didn't recognize. Arms wrapped around each other at some kind of rustic Airbnb cabin. Wine glasses. Fire pit. Bedhead selfies. The timestamps? A month before my accident. While I was working overtime shifts to save for our future. While I thought we were still a team. One of the photo files was even named Weekend with L. Like she couldn't even be bothered to be subtle. There it was. The final nail in the coffin. She wasn't just planning to leave. She was already gone. That night, while Sophie laughed at some dumb show on Netflix and scrolled through Instagram, I sat there with my leg throbbing and my heart burning. And I made a decision. No more second chances. No confrontation. No shouting match. Just disappearance. I would leave, take everything she thought she was entitled to, protect myself, and let her come home to an empty house and a future that didn't include me. The way she clearly wanted. Only this time it would be on my terms, not hers. The morning everything changed started out almost boringly normal. Sophie was pacing the bedroom, rifling through outfits, cursing under her breath when her third dress didn't look professional enough for her big presentation. I watched from the bed, my leg propped up on extra pillows, doing my best to look half asleep and useless, the part she already saw me playing anyway. Inside though, I was wide awake. I had spent the last few days making final preparations. Every important document had been scanned and saved. Every necessary item had been packed into 2 duffel bags tucked inside the closet. Every account, every password, every trail of evidence was neatly organized and ready. I wasn't just leaving. I was taking my life back. And she had no idea. When Sophie finally left, running 15 minutes late and shouting something about not waiting up because there was a team dinner after the presentation, I waited exactly 5 minutes. Just long enough to be sure she was really gone. Then I texted Ryan. Green light. He replied instantly. On my way. Ryan had been my rock through all of this. When I told him what was going on, the cheating, the financial betrayal, all of it, he didn't even hesitate. He just cleared out his guest room and said, "You're not staying here another night." Good friends don't ask for explanations. They show up. And Ryan showed up fast, coffee in one hand and his beat-up pickup truck idling outside. I crutched my way downstairs, every move sending a sharp jolt through my healing leg, but I didn't care. Pain was temporary. Freedom was forever. Packing the truck was strangely easy. Just 2 bags, my laptop, a small box of essential papers, and a few personal items. Nothing sentimental. Nothing that would scream missing at first glance. I wasn't giving Sophie the satisfaction of watching me scramble to take my life with me. No, she would come home to find only what she deserved, the hollow shell she had helped create. Before we left, I hobbled into the kitchen one last time. I pulled out the envelope I had prepared and placed it carefully on the counter right next to the set of house keys and my wedding ring. Inside the envelope was everything. Divorce papers already filed and processed by my lawyer. A detailed letter explaining why I was leaving, no emotions, just cold facts. Copies of the financial documents showing her secret savings account. Screenshots of her texts about wanting to leave me. Evidence of her affair, dates, times, pictures. Everything she thought was hidden. Everything she thought she had gotten away with. Laid bare. A mirror she couldn't avoid looking into. I also left a small recording device, completely legal since it was still technically my house, that captured the conversation she had with her friends the night she tore me apart behind my back. The final nail. Before I hobbled out, I took one last look around the house. The scuff on the hallway wall from when we tried to move the couch upstairs. The stain on the kitchen counter from the time we tried and failed to make homemade wine. The crooked photo frames she never let me fix. 6 years of memories. Good, bad, and poisoned. I took a deep breath, exhaled slowly, and walked out. Ryan helped me into the truck. We pulled away without looking back. I deleted Sophie's calendar reminder for her 2 p.m. presentation from my phone and powered it down. The past was officially over. We grabbed lunch at a crappy diner neither of us had visited since college, greasy burgers, stale fries, plastic booths worn thin from years of bad decisions and worse coffee. It was perfect. I couldn't eat much, the adrenaline made my stomach churn, but I forced down half a sandwich while Ryan rambled about the latest drama at his office, giving me something to focus on other than the gnawing anxiety clawing at my ribs. I was free. Technically. But it didn't feel like freedom yet. It felt like falling. Somewhere between relief and terror. Ryan, to his credit, didn't push me to talk. He just kept the conversation light, occasionally cracking jokes, pretending like this was just another random Tuesday. I'll always be grateful for that. Sometimes silence is the best kind of support. When we got to Ryan's place, a simple 2-bedroom apartment across town, he helped me set up in the guest room. He even borrowed a shower chair from his mom, who had knee surgery the year before, just so I could manage the bathroom without killing myself. Small victories. By 4 p.m., I finally turned my phone back on. And the chaos began. Within minutes, my screen lit up like a Christmas tree. 2:43 p.m. text from Sophie. Hey, where are the extra handouts for my presentation? Need them now. 3:12 p.m. missed call. 3:15 p.m. another text, call me ASAP. 3:32 p.m. 5 missed calls. 3:47 p.m. voicemail, heavy breathing, panicked sobbing. 4:01 p.m. text, Ethan, where are you? I read them all with a strange detachment, like I was watching someone else's drama unfold. At 4:10 p.m. after her 13th missed call, I finally responded. Short. Precise. Final. I know about Liam. I know about the money. I know what you said to your friends. Divorce papers explain everything else. Do not contact me directly. All communication through my lawyer. Then I blocked her number. Just like that. Cut. Done. Finished. The doorbell rang around midnight. Ryan muted the TV and gave me a look. We both knew who it would be. From the peephole, I saw Sophie standing there, swaying slightly, still in her presentation dress, makeup smudged, hair messy. She looked drunk. Desperate. Farrell. I didn't open the door. She banged on it, screamed my name, alternated between sobbing apologies and furious threats. Security for the building eventually showed up and escorted her away. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't satisfying. It was just sad. Pathetic. Like watching a once beautiful ship slowly sink under the weight of its own broken promises. The next morning, my email was flooded. Please read. I can explain. You're ruining my life. Liam was a mistake. You're overreacting. The secret account was for us. I was just venting that night, it didn't mean anything. You're being so cruel. I didn't read past the subject lines. I just forwarded everything to Mr. Reynolds and moved on. My job wasn't to argue with Sophie anymore. My job was to rebuild what she had spent years quietly destroying. One email at a time. One ignored call at a time. One broken chain at a time. Her friends weren't far behind. Madison sent a text calling me a coward. Kelsey accused me of abandoning a marriage I vowed to fight for. Brooke sent a long paragraph about how marriage is about weathering hard seasons, as if they hadn't encouraged Sophie to leave me while I was lying in a hospital bed. Ryan, being the MVP that he is, handled it. He sent them the recording. The one where Sophie, drunk on wine and cruelty, laughed about how pathetic I was and talked about leaving me while I was injured. Funny how fast the moral high ground crumbles when the evidence comes out. After that silence, total radio silence, not that it mattered. Their opinions meant less than nothing to me now. The most surreal moment came 2 days later when Sophie's mom, Carol, called. Carol had always liked me. She was tough, no nonsense, the kind of woman who raised 3 kids by herself after a messy divorce. I almost didn't pick up, but something told me to. She didn't yell. She didn't defend Sophie. She just listened. Then she said something I'll never forget. Sometimes the people we love aren't the people we thought they were. That doesn't mean the love wasn't real. It just means it's time to let it go. She apologized for her daughter's actions. Wished me healing for my body and for my heart. And then she hung up. No drama. No lectures. Just grace. The kind Sophie had never quite learned. By the end of the week, Sophie had stopped trying to call directly. Instead, she started showing up outside Ryan's building. First with flowers. Then crying in the parking lot. Then threatening to call the police and report me missing if I didn't come home. Ryan finally called building security again. They issued a formal warning. Mr. Reynolds sent a cease and desist letter. That finally seemed to get through. Sophie disappeared, at least physically. But online, that was a different story. Her Instagram went from curated shots of perfect brunches and smiling selfies to vague, cryptic quotes about betrayal and being hurt by those closest to you. Classic move from the narcissist's handbook. Rewrite history. Make yourself the victim. Hope no one notices the blood on your own hands. Me? I slept. Really slept. For the first time in what felt like years, I slept through the night without waking up in a cold sweat, wondering why the woman lying next to me seemed like a stranger. The healing had only just begun. But it was happening. And for the first time in a long, long time. I wasn't afraid of what came next. The next few weeks were a blur of paperwork, legal calls, and physical therapy sessions. Divorcing someone, even when you know it's the only choice, is messy in ways no one really prepares you for. It's not just the legal forms or the money fights. It's the constant low hum of grief, mourning not just a person, but a version of yourself that once believed you were safe with them. Sophie fought hard. Not for me. Not for our marriage. But for stuff. She contested things she never cared about before: my grandmother's antique serving dishes, the old record player we found at a garage sale, even the stupid espresso machine she had once called hideous. It wasn't about wanting them. It was about not letting me have them. Petty. Vindictive. Exactly what I'd expected. Luckily, Mr. Reynolds had warned me it would go this way. Hurt people lash out. Guilty people even more so. We played it by the book. I didn't retaliate. I didn't demand more than was fair. I just quietly, methodically untangled myself from her life. And with every step away, I could feel myself breathing easier. I found a small one-bedroom apartment downtown. Nothing fancy. Just a quiet space with big windows and enough sunlight to make the old wood floors glow. It smelled like fresh paint and possibilities. Ryan and a couple of other friends helped me move in. There wasn't much: some borrowed furniture, a mattress from a friend upgrading theirs, kitchen supplies scavenged from clearance sales. It didn't matter. It was mine. All mine. The first night there, I sat on the floor, eating leftover pizza straight from the box, watching the city lights blink through the window. I should have felt lonely. But mostly, I felt weightless. Like I'd finally shrugged off a heavy, invisible backpack I didn't even realize I'd been carrying for years. A few days later, the divorce was finalized. No courtroom drama. No tearful apologies. Just a sterile Zoom hearing where two lawyers did most of the talking. Sophie agreed to almost all my terms once it became clear we had enough evidence to bury her if she tried to drag things out. She kept her secret debt. I kept my savings. We split what little else there was. She even agreed, begrudgingly, to a clause preventing either of us from badmouthing the other online. Not because she respected me, but because her own career couldn't afford another scandal. When the judge banged the virtual gavel and declared it done, I half expected to feel something big. Anger. Relief. Sadness. Instead, I just felt tired. Like crossing a finish line after running a race you never wanted to be part of in the first place. Life moved on faster than I thought it would. My leg healed slowly but steadily. Physical therapy became part of my routine, along with long, aimless walks through the city on crutches at first, then with a limp, and eventually just me and my own two working feet. I started running again. Clumsily at first, short, ugly jogs that left me gasping. But week after week, my body remembered how to move without fear. I reconnected with friends I hadn't seen in years, people I had let drift away during my marriage because Sophie didn't click with them or because spending time with them didn't fit into her curated Instagram life. I joined a local gaming group, met once a week with a bunch of nerds to roll dice, laugh too loud, and pretend to save imaginary kingdoms. I started living again. Not performing. Not pleasing. Not apologizing for existing. Living. Sophie tried to reach out a few times after the papers were signed. A stray email. A vague "hope you're doing okay" text from a new number. I ignored them. There was nothing left to say. Our chapter was closed. Burned. Ashes scattered to the wind. Then one afternoon, a few months after everything was officially over, I ran into someone unexpected. Amanda. One of Sophie's old friends, the brunch squad. I spotted her near the produce section of a grocery store, awkwardly shifting from foot to foot, clearly debating whether to approach me. When she finally did, she surprised me. She apologized. Not a half-assed, "sorry you feel that way" apology, but a real one. She admitted that afternoon, the one I overheard, wasn't just cruelty. It was jealousy. She and the others were all dealing with their own crumbling relationships, their own insecurities. Sophie had played up her role as the martyr wife to fit in, to earn sympathy, to feel superior. It wasn't an excuse. Amanda made that clear. Just context. We encouraged her worst instincts, she said quietly, because it made us feel better about our own messes. I thanked her for telling me. Wished her well. And walked away. Some broken things aren't worth trying to fix. Some doors are meant to stay closed. Sophie's life, from what little I heard through the grapevine, didn't exactly go the way she had planned. Her big promotion fell through. Apparently, the presentation she had pinned her hopes on had been a disaster after she spent the morning frantically trying to figure out why our bank account was missing half its balance. Her Instagram persona shifted from carefully curated success to vague, self-pitying quotes about betrayal and starting over. She moved to a smaller apartment. Started dating someone new. Stopped posting about him abruptly. The cycle continued. And I didn't care. Not in a vindictive way. Not in a gloating way. Just nothing. Indifference. The final stage of healing. As for me, I kept rebuilding. I learned to cook properly real meals, not just microwave garbage. I traveled solo for the first time in my life, a 3-day hiking trip to the mountains, something Sophie always vetoed because roughing it wasn't aesthetic enough. I stood on a cliff one evening, watching the sun melt into the horizon, and realized I hadn't thought about her in hours. Maybe not even all day. That felt like winning. Not a loud, cheering victory, but a quiet one. The best kind. 6 months after the divorce, Sophie reached out again. This time, she asked if we could meet for coffee. Just to talk. Curiosity won out. We met at a neutral coffee shop downtown. She looked different. Tired. Smaller somehow. The makeup, the armor, it was all still there, but it couldn't quite hide the cracks anymore. We talked. Awkward at first. Polite. Surface level. Then deeper. She apologized again, this time without excuses, without blame shifting. She admitted she let validation, image, and pride become more important than love. She said she didn't even realize she was losing me until it was already too late. I listened. Really listened. Then I told her the truth. Even if I could forgive you, Sophie, I could never trust you again. And without trust, what's left? She nodded, eyes glistening, but didn't argue. She hugged me, quick and fierce, and then walked away. I haven't heard from her since. Today, my life is simpler. I moved into a small townhouse closer to work. Got promoted to a leadership role I'd been too afraid to chase before. Started dating again slowly, cautiously. Her name is Megan. She's kind, direct, laughs loudly and loves openly. When I told her about my past, she didn't flinch. She just smiled and said, everyone's carrying something. The important part is whether you want to keep carrying it alone. I'm not in a rush. I'm not trying to fill a void. I'm just living. Healing isn't linear. Some days I still wake up reaching for someone who isn't there. Some nights I still dream of a house with a dented wall and a broken promise. But those days are fewer now. Those nights are softer. The cracks are filling in, slowly, patiently, with gold. Stronger than before. Maybe that's what surviving betrayal really is. Not becoming harder. Not becoming colder. But becoming wiser. Knowing your worth. And refusing to ever let anyone steal it from you again.